He didn't even look at me when I handed him the gift. "Stop making things about you," he said, like I was invisible, like I didn't exist. And in that moment, something inside me didn't break. It went silent. Because sometimes silence is not weakness. It's the beginning of a decision that changes everything. There was a time when he needed me for everything. His tiny hands holding mine. His voice calling Mom, like I was his entire world. I remember the nights I didn't sleep. Not because I was strong, but because I had no choice. Because he needed me. And I was always there. Always. But life changes people. Success came into his life. Money, status, people who suddenly cared about him. And slowly, I disappeared. And the hardest truth? Sometimes people don't leave your life. They just stop valuing you in it. That day, I wasn't asking for attention. I wasn't asking for praise. I just wanted to feel seen. For one moment. But his words made something very clear. So I stopped. Not just talking. I stopped trying. And that's where everything begins. Because the moment you stop forcing your place in someone's life, you start discovering your real value. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't even feel angry. I just sat there, thinking. And I asked myself one question. When did I stop choosing me? Because that's how it happens. You don't lose yourself in one big moment. You lose yourself in small sacrifices. One it's okay when it wasn't. One silence when you deserve to speak. One compromise after another. Until one day, you don't recognize yourself anymore. And I realized something powerful. I had spent years building his life, while slowly abandoning my own. That realization? It hurts. But it also wakes you up. The next morning, I didn't wake up stronger. I woke up certain. And certainty is more powerful than strength. I walked into that office. No drama. No speech. Just a quiet decision. A signature. A shift. A moment that would rewrite everything. Because real power? It doesn't shout. It moves in silence. And here's the truth most people ignore. The more someone takes you for granted, the more they believe you'll never change. And that's their biggest mistake. Weeks passed. Nothing dramatic happened. No fights. No confrontations. Just silence. But not empty silence. Powerful silence. Because silence is where you rebuild yourself. I changed. Not for him. For me. I stopped being available all the time. Stopped fixing everything. Stopped chasing connection. And something strange happened. The less I tried, the more he noticed. That's the irony of life. When you give too much, people ignore you. When you pull back, they start paying attention. He started asking questions. But I didn't rush to answer. Because not everyone deserves immediate access to you. That's a lesson most people learn too late. You don't owe everyone your time, your energy, or your explanations. And when you finally understand that, you become dangerous in the best way. 'Cause now, you're in control. He came back one evening. Different tone. Different attitude. Softer. But I could see it. Confusion. Regret. Maybe even fear. Because people don't notice your value when you give it freely. They notice it when it's no longer available. He tried to reconnect. Tried to fix things. But here's the truth. Realizations don't erase the past. They don't undo words. They don't rebuild respect overnight. They just give you a choice. And for the first time in my life, I didn't choose based on emotion. I chose based on truth. Because growth is not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before you started shrinking for others. And I remembered everything. Every sacrifice. Every moment I felt small. Every time I stayed silent. And I made one thing clear. Not with words, but with actions. I was no longer the same person. If you're still here, if you didn't skip, if something in this story made you pause even for a second, then this part is for you. Because this is not just the ending of a story. This is the moment where everything becomes real. Let me ask you something. Have you ever sat in a room full of people and still felt completely alone? Have you ever given your time, your energy, your love, and slowly realized it was never truly valued? That feeling changes you, not all at once, not in a dramatic way, but quietly, deeply, permanently. Because pain doesn't always scream, sometimes teaches. And what it teaches you is something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Truth. The truth that not everyone will appreciate you. The truth that some people will only notice your value when it's no longer available to them. The truth that sometimes the people you gave the most to will be the ones who respect you the least. And that truth? It hurts. But it also sets you free. Because once you accept it, you stop expecting people to become who they were never meant to be. You stop holding on to versions of them that only existed in your hope. You stop waiting for an apology that may never come. And that's where your power begins. You see, most people think strength is holding on, holding relationships, holding emotions, holding people who are slowly slipping away. But real strength is knowing when to let go, without hate, without anger, without needing closure. Just letting go. Because not everything that leaves your life is a loss. Some things leave to make space for who you're becoming. And that's the part people don't talk about enough. Growth is lonely. Transformation is quiet. Becoming a stronger version of yourself doesn't always feel empowering in the moment. Sometimes feels like losing everything you thought you needed. But that's the illusion. You're not losing. You're shedding. Old expectations, old attachments, old versions of yourself that were built on seeking approval. And what remains is something real, something unshakable, something no one can take from you again. Self-worth. Not the kind that depends on compliments, not the kind that needs validation, but the kind that stands on its own, even in silence, even in solitude. Because here's the truth. When you finally know your worth, you move differently, you speak differently, you allow less, you expect better. And suddenly, the same things that once hurt you don't even reach you anymore. Think about that. The same words that once broke you now feel meaningless. The same people who once had power over your emotions now have no control. That's growth. Not becoming cold, not becoming distant, but becoming aware. Aware of your value, aware of your limits, aware of what you deserve, and what you will no longer tolerate. And once you reach that point, something incredible happens. You stop chasing, and you start attracting. You stop proving, and you start living. You stop begging for respect, and you start walking in it. Because respect, real respect, doesn't come from what you say, comes from what you allow. So let me say this clearly. If someone makes you feel small, step back. If someone makes you question your worth, step away. If someone only values you when it's convenient for them, let them go. Not out of ego, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. Because protecting your peace is not selfish. It's necessary. And yes, there will be moments where you doubt yourself. Moments where you wonder, did I do the right thing? Was I too harsh? Should I have stayed? That's normal. Because growth feels unfamiliar. And anything unfamiliar feels uncomfortable. But don't confuse discomfort with a mistake. Sometimes, discomfort is proof that you're finally doing what's right for you. And listen carefully. This might be the most important part of everything you've heard so far. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You don't need to explain your decisions to people who never tried to understand your pain. You don't need permission to choose yourself. That's your right. And the moment you fully accept that, you become unstoppable. Not in a loud way, not in a show-off way, but in a quiet, unshakable way. The kind of strength that doesn't need attention. The kind of confidence that doesn't need validation. The kind of peace that no one can disturb. And that is the real victory. Not the money, not the status, not proving someone wrong, but becoming someone who no longer needs to prove anything at all. So if you've been waiting for someone to see you, waiting for someone to appreciate you, waiting for someone to finally treat you the way you deserve, stop waiting. Be that person for yourself. Give yourself the respect. Give yourself the love. Give yourself the value that you've been giving to everyone else. Because at the end of the day, the relationship you have with yourself sets the standard for every other relationship in your life. Raise that standard and watch everything change. Now here's the final truth, and I want you to really hear this, not just listen, but feel it. You didn't go through all that pain just to remain the same person. You didn't survive everything you faced just to keep settling for less than you deserve. No. You are here for more. You are meant for more. And deep down, you already know it. So don't ignore that voice. Don't silence that feeling. Don't go back to what broke you just because it feels familiar. Move forward, even if it's slow, even if it's uncomfortable, even if no one understands it. Because one day, you'll look back at this moment and realize this was the turning point. This was the moment you chose yourself. And that decision, it will change everything. If this message spoke to you, don't just scroll away. Take a second and ask yourself, what am I still tolerating that I know I need to walk away from? Drop your answer in the comments, because your voice matters. Your story matters. And someone out there needs to hear what you've been through. Make sure you subscribe, because this isn't just content. This is transformation. And remember, your silence, your growth, your decision to choose yourself, that's not weakness. That's power. Use it, and never give it away again.